Okay, we begin with the section 7. Uh, I personally think that the Diamond Sutra is really difficult to explain. Of course, every philosophical text is harder to explain, particularly when I have to depend upon the language which is not my native tongue. But I will try to do my best. Okay, so let me read the first paragraph. Subhuti, what do you think? Has the Tathagata attained the consummation of the incomparable enlightenment? Now, in the Diamond Sutra, they are using the word incomparable very much, very frequently. Now, when they say incomparable, as I've said, incomparable is referring to something absolute. But the absolute is not referring to certain certain beyond worldly idealistic speculative idea, but actually it's referring to all living and non-living existence in this universe. So we are all the embodiment of the incomparable, in the sense that I cannot compare myself to someone else, right? So it's totally impossible, because I am the absolute, and the absolute means no possibility to compare with other objects or other human beings, something like that. Okay, so it's it's impossibility of making comparison is the concept of incomparable, and the incomparable enlightenment is referring to Buddha's wisdom. Okay, so Buddha's wisdom. So once you are able to attain incomparable enlightenment, then that means that you are Buddha. You are Buddha, but actually you are already Buddha, and you simply realize that you are Buddha by way of acquiring incomparable enlightenment. But the next line is interesting. Has the Tathagata teaching to enunciate? Has the Tathagata teaching to enunciate? Now, then of course the answer would be negative, right? Has the Tathagata teaching to enunciate? I mean, the implication of this particular question is this: in Buddhism, I don't know much about other religion, but in Buddhism, they say that there is no such thing as the absolute truth. In other words, if you say this is the only absolute truth, then that is non-Buddhist. So in Buddhism, there is no such thing as the absolute truth, and the everything which is taught by Buddha, everything which is taught by Buddha or teachings of Buddha are all considered as an expedient means. So teachings of Buddha cannot be considered as the absolute truth, but in actuality, you can assume that teachings of Buddha is a means by which you can get the end. Okay, so they are, in that sense, all sort of all types of upaya, in other words, expedient means. And therefore, the connotation of this particular question is that there is no such thing as an absolute teaching which is equivalent to the absolute truth in the teachings of the Buddha. And that's the implication, right? That's the implication. So let's read the next paragraph. Subhuti answered, as I understand the Buddha's meaning, there is no formulation of truth called consummation of incomparable enlightenment. And then another implied meaning, related with this particular passage is that if there is such a thing as the absolute truth, which can be fixed, and which you can point out, or which you can spell out, then there is a there is nobody who cannot become a Buddha. Everybody can become a Buddha as far as they acquire and understand that particular absolute truth, right? But since there is no fixed truth that can lead you to the path of Buddhahood, and therefore it is difficult for you to become a Buddha in the phenomenal realm. Of course, at the nominal realm, you are already Buddha, but at the phenomenal realm, we are still laymen. We are sentient beings. We are non-Buddha, right? So you have to have a clear demarcation line between the nominal realm and the phenomenal realm. Nominal realm, at the nominal realm, we are all Buddhas, but at the phenomenal realm, there is hierarchy between Buddha and the non-Buddha, Buddha and the layman people, right? Things like that. Okay. Moreover, the Tathagata has no formulated teaching to enunciate. Wherefore, because the Tathagata has said that the truth is uncontainable and inexpressible. See? So he said truth is uncontainable and inexpressible, and therefore the only thing that the Tathagata or Buddha can say is expedient means by which you can reach the realm of nirvana, or the the realm, the dimension of truth. So it neither is nor is it not. This is interesting question. This is an interesting statement. He said it neither is nor is it not. It perhaps is referring to truth, right? So truth is neither being nor non-being. That is its implication. So what is its implication? Implication is that you cannot say truth does not exist. Because if you say truth does not exist, then how can you become a Buddha, right? So you can therefore, you therefore cannot say that truth is not or does not exist. So that is a negation of no truth, right? But next phrase is precisely the opposite. Nor is it not. So in other words, what does that mean? Is it not? So you cannot. So in other words, you cannot say truth exists or truth does not exist. So neither is correct, because if you say truth exists, then truth becomes a thing. Truth becomes a thing, and then that implies certain limitation imposed upon truth. So truth is a thing. Truth is a thing, right? And therefore, something that can that contains a certain limitation in itself cannot be considered as a truth, because truth is beyond. Truth is limitless, right? Truth is limitless, and then how can you say truth is such and such? Then you are delimiting the nature of truth, and then that actually is not truth. But you also cannot say that truth does not exist, as I have said earlier, because if you say truth does not exist, then nobody can become a Buddha, because there is no truth by which you can be a Buddha, right? So it neither is nor is it not, right? So that kind of things is what we call the middle way truth. That is what we call the middle way truth. So you should not be attached either to the concept of being or concept of non-being. So the last line, thus it is that this unformulated principle is the foundation of the different systems of all the sages. Now, unformulated principle is oneness. Unformulated principle is oneness, which is unsayable, right? And then you can say that it is referring to the concept of T. It is related to the concept of T, whereas the foundation of the different systems, different systems means variations stemming from that unsayable oneness, right? So variations, but how do you have variations or myriad things out of that unsayable oneness? Because everybody has a different karma, and then one particular unsayable truth can be seen uh, by individual being uh, in totally different manner. So my truth is different from your truth, and your truth is different from her truth, or something like that. But we can never say that whose truth is true and whose truth is untrue. We can not engage in that kind of argument because that's totally fruitless, or it's meaningless, right? Okay, we move to the next paragraph, next section, section 8. All right, Subudhi, what do you think? If anyone filled the 3,000 galaxies of worlds with the 7 treasures and gave all away in gifts of alms, would he gain great merit? Well, the first paragraph is, often appearing in the Diamond Sutra as well as in other Buddhist sutras, and then this is a typical rhetorical expressions used in ancient Indian, books. So when they want to express the idea of great quantity, or innumerable numbers, they usually employ or depend upon this type of rhetorical device. Okay, rhetorical device. So you can simply consider it as an idiomatic expression. Okay. Now let me move to the third paragraph. The Buddha said, I am on page number 33. The Buddha said, on the other hand, if anyone received and retained even only 4 lines of this discourse and taught and explained them to others, his merit would be the greater. So this is a relativistic idea, right? So when he said his merit would be the greater, greater than whom? The one who did gifts of alms in the first paragraph, right? So they make a comparison. Okay, and what is the important, or maybe what is the fundamental meaning of this particular paragraph when he said, received and retained even only 4 lines of this discourse and taught and explained them to others, his merit would be the greater. Number one, you should not understand this particular paragraph literally, but actually it has a further meaning than that. Okay, and then the implied philosophical meaning is that retained even only 4 lines of this discourse and taught and explained them to others. Okay, 2 things I would like to mention in relation to this paragraph. Number one, received and retained even only 4 lines of this discourse does not mean that you simply receive and retain only 4 lines from the Diamond Sutra. Not that, but that means that you become the Diamond Sutra, because not merely you memorize certain passages in the Diamond Sutra, using your brain or memory, but actually it's more than that. So you become the Diamond Sutra. You should become the embodiment of the Diamond Sutra. Okay, So that's what it implies. That's what it implies. So you become the Diamond Sutra, and then the Diamond Sutra basically teaches important religious idea of no abiding. So no abiding means you should not abide anywhere. That means that you should not be attached to anything, right? You should not be attached to anything, right? So do not be attached to anything has two different meanings. Number one, you realize the nature of this phenomenal world, which is illusory, right? And therefore, as far as the phenomenal realm is illusory, then there is nowhere you can be attached. There is nowhere you can abide. Okay, so that's one of the important meaning, right? And then therefore, you do not make any distinction. You do not make any distinction because everything is illusion. That's the point, right? So that kind of realization is what we call the Buddha's wisdom, and the Buddha's wisdom is your realization that all things are impermanent, and then there is nothing you can abide by. Okay, that's Buddha's wisdom, and then with that Buddha's wisdom, you should not simply keep it in yourself, but you should dispatch it. You should share it with other people, and then that is what is said in the next line. Taught and explained them to others. Okay, so if the former one is related to self-salvation, then the latter one is related to salvation of other people, and then your realization that salvation of self and the salvation of other people are not two separate things, then that is important and actually the most fundamental tenet of Mahayana Buddhism, right? So you are able to put that into practice in your real life, then the merit of your doing that is far greater than simply giving donation to the poor people, or giving donation to the temple, or etc. Okay, so that is the important implication of this particular passage. Okay, so let's see the slide, which is just the summary of what I have explained so far. If anyone received and retained even only 4 lines of this discourse is related to self-enlightenment, and then number B, taught and explained them to others is enlightenment of others, and then your realization that A and B are not two is important tenet of Mahayana Buddhism, right? And in addition to that, retain even only 4 lines of this course. And here, retain does not simply mean that you understand and realize, you understand and memorize certain passages in the Diamond Sutra. Not that, but that means that you become the Diamond Sutra, and then once you become the Diamond Sutra, then you will turn into the figure who is incomparable existence. You are already an incomparable existence, but this is talking about your realization that you are an incomparable existence, and then that means that you are awareness of your true self, true nature, right? Okay, and then let's move to the last paragraph. Subudhi, what is called the religion given by Buddha is not in fact the Buddha religion. So this is what they call instant negation. So what is called the religion given by Buddha? Okay. First proposition. Then is followed by the second proposition. Is not Buddha religion. Is not Buddha religion. So what is the purpose of using this type of rhetorical device, so-called instant negation. Uh, this is trying to evoke the idea, that whatever is predicated by human language, uh, by human language, uh, inevitably contains certain limitation of itself, and therefore, you say it is the religion given by Buddha. Then, upon the time you say the religion given by Buddha, then it already is not the religion given by Buddha, because it's said out. It's said out. So when you spell it out, it's already not the religion given by Buddha. It's an instant negation. Okay, this instant negation is a little bit delicate to explain, but let me put it this way. What is called the religion given by Buddha is or contains certain limitation, and whatever has a limitation cannot be considered the true teachings given by Buddha. Whatever contains limitation cannot be considered as the true teachings of Buddha. So through negation, somehow that limitation imposed on the religion given by Buddha, that limitation imposed upon the religion given by Buddha, because it is said out, disappears. Let me give you a certain analogy. For instance, let's say that my name is Hong Gil-dong, okay, and then my name is Hong Gil-dong, and then they call me Hong Gil-dong. So what is then my name is Hong Gil-dong. They call me Hong Gil-dong, right? And then is that my true name? And then I would say that my true name is not Hong Gil-dong, but it is something which but I might say that my true name is something when my social when my name Hong Gil-dong is negated, and then that is my true name, because Hong Gil-dong is just a social agreement, and then they call me Hong Gil-dong, and for convenience sake I am called Hong Gil-dong, but my true name is always beyond that kind of social agreement, and therefore if I want to know about my real name, I have to negate my name given either by my parents or my grandparents, and then that actually is my true name, and my true name cannot be said out, because nobody knows what is my true name. Do you know your true name? Do I know my true name? No, I do not know, because my name is such and such, but that actually is not my true name. And if I want to know my true name, then the only way I can do is by way of negating my current name, which was given by my parents, and then after that, even though I cannot spell out what my true name is, but actually in that process, or in that act of negation, my true name may emerge. even though we cannot pinpoint what my true name is. Okay, that actually is the point. It go it you know it goes through with everything. For example, what is called a cup is not a cup, and uh, uh, the negation of a cup is a cup. Yeah, things like well, you will have more examples, and then I will try to explain it in the next paragraph. Okay. So this instant negation is like a syllogism. So C is omitted, but if I put it in a complete format, I can say this way: what is called the religion given by Buddha is not Buddha religion. C, it is Buddha religion. It is Buddha religion. So what does that mean? That means that what is called the religion given by Buddha is not Buddha religion, but it is Buddha religion. So for convenience sake, we say that it is a Buddha religion, but actually it is not Buddha religion, and the real Buddha religion we do not know. But for convenience sake, we say that it is the Buddha religion, but actually it is not. Because the real Buddha religion or the real teachings given by Buddha, we do not know. Do you understand what I'm saying? It is really hard to explain this. So you can put it this way too. What is called the Diamond Sutra is not the Diamond Sutra. It is the Diamond Sutra. So that is another example. So what is called the Diamond Sutra is not Diamond Sutra, because the Diamond Sutra is merely a name given by the people, right? And then it is the Diamond Sutra. That means two things. Number one, the Diamond Sutra is merely a name given by the people, and therefore we call it the Diamond Sutra, right? That's one possibility. But the other connotation involved with the last line is that, what is called the Diamond Sutra is not the Diamond Sutra. It is the Diamond Sutra. Then the third line means that when the meaning of the Diamond Sutra is negated, then that actually is the real Diamond Sutra. So, through the negation of the name of the Diamond Sutra, we can get the true meaning of the Diamond Sutra. But the true meaning of the Diamond Sutra can be attained only when we negate the meaning of the name, the Diamond Sutra. You see? Oh, it's so hard, so difficult. There are some other examples, and I am going to try. I'm going to explain it. Okay, repeatedly. Okay, let's continue. Continue with the section 9. Okay, this section introduces various different stages of self-enlightenment, and the beginning stage is called a stream entrant. A stream entrant is the beginning stage. Okay, so it's a beginning stage of self-enlightenment, and I think the idea is that you simply let yourself flow together with the stream of the river. Okay, so you do not make any resistance. So you do not make your own artificial effort to swim across the flow of the river. Okay, so that is what you call a stream entrant. right? So it's like let it be, right? So you completely accept the flow of nature, right? So you become one with the flow of nature. So I think it is very similar to the idea of Wu Wei in Taoism. It's very similar. Okay, and let me quote one particular passage from footnotes of section 9. There is a very interesting footnote in section 9. It's like this. I have written down on the slide. If all life is one, there is no one to realize it. Okay, so if all life is one, there is no one to realize it. What does that mean? That means that the true nature, the true nature of all existence, the true nature of all existence is unsayable, because it cannot be cognized. It cannot be cognized. Why it cannot be cognized? Because one means there is no split between the perceiver and the object of perceiving, right? So no split between the perceiver and the perceived, and therefore no perception can take place. No perception can take place. So that's why he said, if all life is one, and this is the reality of all existing things in this cosmos, in this universe, then there is no one to realize it. And that's why both in Taoism and Buddhism, they say that the way that can be spoken of is not the constant way. The name that can be named is not the constant name, right? So the oneness of the totality of all things is the real. Yeah, yeah, very interesting statement. But I think this one we are already familiar with it, right? I would like to remind you of our previous discussion. Okay, and next one that I want to point out is that you see on page number 35, the last part of the paragraph on this page. This is because Subudhi abides nowhere. Subudhi abides nowhere. You know that Subudhi is the main character of the Diamond Sutra, and then he said, this is because Subudhi abides nowhere. And what does that mean? Then that means that Subudhi abides nowhere implicates his realization that the mind and the world are not two separate things. So the world is merely the manifestation of your inner mind. And if you follow that argument, then in that there is no split between the mind and the world. Where can you survive? Where can you abide? There is nowhere you can abide, right? There is nowhere you can abide. And in other words, that also leads to the idea of oneness. So, mind and the world are not two, but they are one, right? They are one. And in that, it's a oneness. Where can you abide? There is nowhere you can abide. There is nowhere you can abide. You can abide only when there is a separation between the subjectivity and objectivity. Subjective mind and objective reality of objective world. And then in that case, you can abide by somewhere, but in that, the objective world is actually embodiment of your inner mind, and in that sense, they are oneness. And then, using the previous discussion that we have done, using the one which was said in the footnotes, no perceiver and the perceived, and therefore, nowhere you can abide. Okay, so that's the implication. And if you follow this argument, the perception is not possible. Perception is not possible. So what I'm saying is that if I say I am a Buddha, if I say I am a Buddha, then actually that can be both correct or incorrect. From the standpoint of a layman, you can say, he's a Buddha. That might be possible. Nonetheless, if you are Buddha, then and Buddha means someone who has a full realization that the world is not different from one's inner mind. So it's oneness. And if it's oneness, then no way you can name it, right? No way you can name it. You can only name something when you are able to objectify the particular things. But if it's oneness, then there is no split. There is no split between the subjectivity and the objectivity, and therefore no possibility of objectifying certain things, and therefore the name Buddha also disappears. So once you are a Buddha, the name Buddha disappears. Okay, so I think all are maybe mutually interconnected logically. Sometimes they say this, and sometimes they talk about that. But if you think all those various ideas appearing in the Diamond Sutra carefully, they are all interconnected, and therefore they are very systematically and organically structured. I hope you may be able to realize that. Okay. Okay. Now moving to section 10. Okay. Section 10 also introduces the syllogism that I have discussed in the first session of my lecture. Let me reiterate this. I would like to clarify something which was not explained clearly. Okay, so here it goes this way. A. Setting force, majestic Buddha lens. B. Is not a majestic setting force. C. This is merely a name. Now, setting force a majestic Buddha lens is not a majestic setting force. So setting force a majestic Buddha lens is not a majestic setting force. Why it is not a majestic setting force? From the context we can tell that because Buddha lens is merely a name, right? Buddha lens is merely a name, and a concept or a name cannot represent the ultimate reality. And therefore, you say, "Oh, this is a majestic Buddha lens," and you say it out. You spell it out. Then it no longer is a Buddha lens. It no longer is a Buddha lens, and then that is actually what C is trying to talk about. This is merely a name, but actually, this is merely a name. Has a couple of complicated ideas. as I've said earlier, number one is that this is merely a name. Then you might ask the following question. Then what is the real Buddha lens? What is then the real Buddha lens? You may ask this question. Quite logically, right? Then from the overall structure of this particular syllogism, we can tell that the real Buddha lens is something which is beyond the name Buddha lens. So Buddha lens actually does not exist in the name Buddha lens, but the Buddha lens actually exists when the name Buddha lens disappeared. When the name Buddha lens disappeared. But what does that mean? If I say the Buddha lens appears when the name Buddha lens disappears. Well, this is tentative, conclusion, or maybe some possible interpretation for this particular, syllogism. I would say this way: name accompanies distinction and discrimination. Distinction and discrimination. So you say, "Oh, this is a majestic Buddha land." This is a majestic Buddha lens. Then, upon the time you say the word majestic Buddha lens, you make an affirmation. You make an affirmation by saying that, oh, this is a majestic Buddha lens. But when you use the affirmative statement saying this is a majestic Buddha lens, you already impose certain limitation by way of saying that this is majestic Buddha lens, and whatever is not this is not majestic Buddha lens. So you create discrimination and you create a distinction. So affirmation always accompanies discrimination. Affirmation always accompanies discrimination, right? And then the concept of a Buddha lens is something which is free from making any discrimination and distinction. So you cannot say that this is a Buddha lens and that is not the Buddha lens. Then that already that Buddha lens that you have affirmed, you have confirmed, is not real Buddha lens, because that Buddha lens can be in existence by way of excluding something which is not Buddha lens. And therefore, true Buddha lens must be encompassing, and therefore, it should not allow any type of exclusion or negation. So, you should say, oh, this is Buddha land, and that is Buddha land, and everywhere is Buddha land. Everywhere is Buddha land. And if you want to say that everywhere is Buddha land, then using human language, it is not possible. Because you say Buddha lands already designates particular place, particular time and space, and therefore true Buddha lens, according to the teachings given by the Diamond Sutra, encompasses everywhere, right? And therefore you cannot say that you cannot say in human language such thing as majestic Buddha lens, because it already accompanies certain exclusion. And that's why he said, setting forth majestic Buddha lens is not a majestic setting forth. This is merely a name. And then therefore, Buddha lens is something that exists outside of the name Buddha lens. Then what is it? I do not want to give you further explanation, because the more I say, the more I will be stuck because of my explanation. But I hope you do understand what I'm trying to talk about, or what I want to say, right? So you should understand the meaning intuitively, not by means of accurate explanation or logical explanation, because that actually runs counter to the logic of Buddhism. Okay, so that is maybe the limitation that I can explain as regarding this particular syllogism. Okay, syllogism. Okay, now can you take a look at section 10, the main body of the book? Okay, so let me quickly read it. Buddha said, Subhuti, what do you think? In the remote past, when the Tathagata was with this Dipankara Buddha, did he have any degree of attainment in the good law? No, world honored one. When the Tathagata was with the Dipankara Buddha, he had no degree of attainment in the good law. Why did he say he had no degree of attainment in the good law? Does that mean that he didn't learn anything? He didn't learn anything from his teacher, who was a Dipankara Buddha? No, maybe not. I think what is implied here is that as far as you say that, oh, I have attained, I have a certain degree of attainment in the good law, then that already presupposes that there is I who had a certain degree of attainment in the good law. But in that there is no such thing as an ego entity. How can you say that I have a certain degree of attainment in the good law? So with the disappearance of I, the ego entity, the attainment in the good law also becomes annulled. Okay, so that is the point. That is the point. It may sound very paradoxical, but that actually is the gist of Buddhist idea. All right, next line. Subhuti, what do you think? Does the Bodhisattva set forth any? Yeah, this one we already have discussed. Okay, so next paragraph. Therefore, Subhuti, all Bodhisattvas, lesser and great, should develop a pure lucid mind. Now, pure lucid mind refers to the concept of, as I've said earlier, no detachment, right? I mean no attachment. So pure the lucid mind means no attachment, with the realization that everything is illusory, right? And not depending upon sound, flavor, touch, odor, or any quality, because they are all empty. A bodhisattva should develop a mind which alights upon no thing whatsoever. A bodhisattva should develop a mind which alights upon no thing whatsoever. So, alights upon no thing means a bodhisattva who is a true bodhisattva will not be attached to anything, and then that object of attachment, in my opinion, can be comparable to the idea of idolatry or idol in Christianity. So attachment to the external objects can be reinterpreted in the context of Christianity as a form of idol worshipping. Of course, that's my my opinion. But I think there is a number of evidence that I can show it to you. So it's very similar. So attachment in the context of Buddhism is similar to the worshipping of idolatry or idols, idol worshipping in Christianity. So Subhuti, this may be likened to a human frame as large as the mighty Mount Sumeru. Sumeru is the name for the Mount Everest. What do you think? Would such a body be great? Subhuti replied, great indeed, world-honored one. This is because Buddha has explained that nobody is called a great body. Nobody is called a great body, right? So, the last line. This is because Buddha has explained that nobody is called a great body, and therefore the body is great indeed. Great indeed. So with the negation, you will see the real great thing. Why? Because once something is negated, then there disappears any limitation imposed upon that particular thing. Then with the disappearance of a limitation or boundary, that particular thing becomes or turn into something which is a fastless. That's the logic of the Diamond Sutra. So whenever you try to identify certain things by way of saying that this is great, this is big, this is truly excellent or whatever, then that already accompanies certain exclusion and limitation, and therefore you must discard any affirmation, and with the disappearance of affirmation, that particular thing will turn into the fastless existence that can reach or fill out the entire universe. Okay, so that is the core idea of the Diamond Sutra. Okay, now I am on page 38. Page 38. Actually, this is a reiteration of what I have discussed so far, but I would like to read it one more time. Can you take a quick look at the footnotes, the third one, okay, on page number 38. Would such a body be great? The real great transcends conditions and qualities. See, this is what I have said. The study of proportional relationships give no final clue to the essence of the substance of the phenomena, etc. So I skip a number of lines here, and then in the final line of this paragraph, he said, the biggest form cannot be visualized. Tao, while the hidden, is nameless. So he said, the biggest form cannot be visualized. Tao, while the hidden, is nameless. So when he said the biggest form cannot be visualized, that means that if you say something is great, that thing is not really great. Truly big objects, truly big object cannot be visualized. What can be the typical example? You may think about the space. You cannot visualize the space. you cannot see the shape of the space. Do you know the shape of the space? Is it round? Is it circle or triangle or is it square? We never know. Why? Because it's so big, and therefore we can never figure out what its appearance will look like, right? And that's why he said that the biggest form cannot be visualized. But once you say, oh, this thing is very big, then, no matter what kinds of adjective you may use in order to describe the the uh, the big nature of the thing, nonetheless, it still has a certain limitation, right? So truly big objects transcends any description. So it's a nameless. Okay, so that is the point. Okay, let's continue. But before we continue talking about the Diamond Sutra, I would like to give you some supplementary remarks related to the main topic. Okay, so why don't you see the slide? Okay, so I made a tentative topic here. What is the real Diamond Sutra? Well, this may sound a little bit funny, but I made it. I made this question with a certain purpose. So, what is the real Diamond Sutra? Then I might say, well, on the basis of the logic used in the Diamond Sutra, I might say that the real Diamond Sutra is something that appears when all our knowledge, assumption, characterization, etc. of the book, which is the Diamond Sutra, disappears. Okay, so the real Diamond Sutra is the one that appears when all our previous knowledge and assumption, characterization, etc. of the book disappear. Then the real Diamond Sutra appears. But it is really difficult to imagine, what it will be like, because you forget about the name of the Diamond Sutra, you forget about your assumption about Diamond Sutra, you forget about your knowledge, you forget about your own characterization of the Diamond Sutra and everything, and then you begin from complete, complete, you know, white canvas, no knowledge at all, right? And then the real Diamond Sutra appears, okay? And then that may seem quite impossible task, but I may put it this way: when and how it can occur, then I would say with the disappearance of our ego entity. And from this we can tell that the core wisdom taught by the Diamond Sutra is a volition of the self, which is an illusion, which is an illusion. Okay, so you might say that this is an impossible task to assume that all our knowledge, assumption, characterization, understanding about the Diamond Sutra disappears. You might consider it as an impossible task, but I think it is related with your own ego entity, and therefore with the disappearance of your ego entity, that impossible task can come true. Okay, so that is the idea, and then actually that is what is taught by the Diamond Sutra, and I think that the Diamond Sutra places a heavy emphasis upon it simply because the idea of ego entity is the fundamental cause of human suffering, and also it is an illusion. Okay, so that's why Diamond Sutra keep using certain analogy and certain admonition telling that it is an illusion. Okay, so let's just keep in our mind, and then let's move to the next section. Okay, I would like to talk about the section 12. Okay, I want to skip section 11 because it's a repetition and reiteration of our previous discussion. Alright, so let me read section 12 from the beginning. Furthermore, Subhuti, you should know that whatsoever this discourse is proclaimed by even so little as 4 lines, that place should be venerated by the whole realms of gods, men, and titans, as though it were a Buddha shrine. Okay, this is interesting because there is a very simple definition of a Buddha shrine. In other words, a Buddha temple or Buddhist temple. In Christianity, you might call it a church. So what is the meaning of a church? What is the meaning of a Buddhist temple? According to this particular paragraph, Buddhist temple does not indicate the building, the construction, the material, building that you can touch or you can use. But actually, it is referring to certain spiritual, idea, right? So that's why he said, Subhuti, you should know that wheresoever this discourse is proclaimed by even so little as 4 lines, that place should be venerated as a Buddha shrine. That is the idea. That is the idea. And therefore, the Buddhist temple or the temple, church, or whatever, shrine, all of them exists in one's mind, and that is the original meaning of the Buddhist temple. Okay, but nowadays, whenever we talk about the Buddhist temple, it usually is referring to that magnificent building or construction, that we can see visually, right? But that was not the original idea given by Buddha. Okay. And then what is the Buddhist temple that we see with our eyes? What are they? They are called, as you can see on the slide, they are called form. And the form is written in Chinese character like this, in the parentheses, as you can see. And the form in Sanskrit word is called namita. Okay, namita. So namita is something which is related to the idea of illusion. Okay, so okay, let me continue reading this. How much more is this so in the case of one who is able to receive and retain the whole and read and recite it throughout? Okay, so that means that if you are able to read and recite the Diamond Sutra throughout, then you are a walking shrine, you are a walking church, you are a walking Buddhist temple. So you yourself is the embodiment of the Buddhist temple. Okay, so that is the point. That is the point. Then we might apply it to this present situation. Suppose you are listening to my lecture and you are reading the Diamond Sutra by yourself, and then you are the embodiment of the Buddhist temple, then I am also the embodiment of the Buddhist temple. Okay, so that is the implication. Next line, next paragraph. Subhuti, you should know that such an one attains the highest and the most wonderful truth. Wheresoever this sacred discourse may be found, there should you comport yourself as though in the presence of Buddha and the disciples worthy of honor. This paragraph is also very significant because he is giving us the definition of Buddha, right? And then what does it mean by Buddha? According to this definition, Buddha does not refer to any human being, right, or any sage person, but actually Buddha is referring to truth. So truth itself, it's like logos. Okay, so logos. Uh, so uh, when you say you are a Buddhist believer, it does not mean that you worship a certain historical figure. Not that, but you pay homage to truth. That is actually the essential idea of Buddhism. And I think many non-Buddhist people have a misunderstanding about the Buddhist religion in the sense that Buddhism has the custom or practice of so-called idol worshipping, right? Idol worshipping. But I would say that, in my opinion, Buddhism is most strongly iconoclastic. Okay, Buddhism is most strongly iconoclastic because they do not allow any sort of any type of idol worshipping. That's why Buddha himself once had said that my teachings also should be considered as a raft that can take you to cross the river. Okay, and therefore you should not even worship my teachings as if they are the embodiment of truth. They are only an expedient means by which you are able to arrive at the realm of nirvana. Okay, that's what Buddha had said, and therefore Buddhism in that sense was strongly iconoclastic, but many people have a misunderstanding. Of course, there is a Buddha statue if you go to the Buddhist temple, but why do they have a Buddha statue? I think it's mainly because majority of human beings are touched with a certain visual image. So when they see that magnificent image of a Buddha statue made of gold, then they will instantly have the idea of awe, idea of reverence, idea of respect, idea of obedience, and things like that. And then that's for the sake of awakening and enlightening, mediocre layman people, not for the sake of which has nothing to do with the original teachings of Buddha. Okay, original teachings of Buddha. That is actually the point. So that's why in the footnotes underneath on page number 40, this is important. Okay, this is important in terms of understanding the meaning of Buddhism. Okay, so make sure you read it carefully. Let me read it. This particular footnotes. The inherent universal impulse to worship should be directed to aspiration and the mystical love for the highest ideal, which a symbol represents, not to the symbol as an oracle or a talisman. Okay, so what they worship, or what they worship, is not the material Buddha statue itself, but a symbol, the highest ideal which a symbol represents, and a highest ideal which a symbol represents is not a material object, but it is something spiritual. It is something spiritual. Okay, and of course, of course, something spiritual can also be an idol, right? Uh, Such as you worship, the evil spirit, then that is idol worshipping. But in the case of Buddhism, the Buddhist tenet constantly or keep reminding us of the fact that you should not be attached to any thing, any idea, any material thing, or any speculative idea. And as far as you are attached to something, you are not a Buddha, you are not awakened. Okay, so that is the point, right? Okay, and once you understand it, then we can tell that Buddhism has nothing to do with the idol worshipping. Okay, so I can say this with confidence and with conviction, even though I am not a Buddhist believer. Okay. Okay, now let's move to section 13. Okay, I begin with the second paragraph. Buddha answered, Subhuti, this discourse should be known as the diamond of the perfection of transcendental wisdom. Thus should you receive and retain it. The diamond of the perfection of transcendental wisdom. Then now he is using the word wisdom. Then what is the content of wisdom? As I have said earlier, the content of wisdom, as is proposed in the Diamond Sutra, is the reality, which means no ego entity, is a true reality, right? No ego entity is a true reality of all living and non-living existence in the universe. Okay, so that is the wisdom taught in the Diamond Sutra. At the end of this paragraph, he said, has the Tathagata a teaching to enunciate? What should be the reply? Of course, we already have discussed this. There is nothing that the Tathagata, there is nothing that the Tathagata, I'm sorry, there is nothing that the Tathagata has a teaching to enunciate. Why? Because if there is a teaching given by the Tathagata to enunciate, then that teaching becomes an object for attachment. Then you will abide by that teaching with a mistaken idea that is the embodiment of truth. But there is no such thing. Right? So, Subhuti replied to Buddha, World Honored One, the Tathagata has nothing to teach. So nothing to teach does not mean that he has nothing to teach. It does not mean, the meaning of it should not be understood literally. But I think what it means is that the Tathagata has nothing to teach means that, how should I say, number one, there is no such thing that can be fixed as the teachings of Tathagata. So this is the teaching of Tathagata, and this is the only way you can enter the realm of nirvana. Okay, so you must enter this gate, otherwise you can never enter the realm of nirvana. Then if you say so, then that actually has nothing to do with the Buddhist teachings. So in that sense, no fixed teaching given by the Tathagata or the Buddha. That's what it means by the Tathagata has nothing to teach. The Tathagata has nothing to teach. And number two, the Tathagata is nothing to teach also implies, this one is tricky, listen carefully. The Tathagata is nothing to teach means that in that all sentient beings are Buddha, and therefore what need does the Tathagata teach the sentient beings, in that they are already Buddha, right? So sentient beings do not become Buddha by teachings of the Tathagata, but they are already Buddha, and therefore paradoxically I can say that the sentient beings who listen to the teachings of the Tathagata or Buddha are Buddhas. So the learners who want to become Buddha are already Buddha. So the people who want to cultivate and enlighten themselves on the basis of the teachings of the Tathagata are already Buddha, right? And therefore, how should I say? Buddhas who are teaching sentient beings are no different from Buddhas inherent in the mind of the sentient beings. So Buddhas inherent in the mind of the sentient beings are manifested in form of external Buddha, but external Buddha and internal Buddha in the minds of the sentient beings are the same. There is no discrepancy. But sometimes you must rely upon the Buddha, which exists outside of your mind, simply because you are ignorant of the fact that you are Buddha, and therefore you need to receive certain guidance from the Buddha outside of your mind. But those Buddhas outside of your mind who appear before you are actually the Buddha transformed as an external Buddha, separated from you, but they are no different from Buddhas inside of your mind. That is the point. Okay. Okay. Now I move to page number 42. The first paragraph. No world honored one. The Tathagata may not be perceived by these 32 marks. Okay. Now 32 marks. What are 32 marks? 32 marks is referring to those 32 handsome looking things in the body of historical Buddha. But you cannot see Buddha by his appearance. Buddha is not a material being, right? Corporal being. Buddha is rather spiritual existence. Or maybe you can say Buddha is embodiment of truth or something like that. And therefore, it is nothing to do with one's corporal or physical appearance. But we usually believe that historical Buddha, who used to be Gautama Siddhartha, before he was enlightened under the Bodhi tree, possessed 32 handsome-looking marks in his body. But why was it so? is for the sake of impressing layman people, laymen, right? Because human beings usually are impressed by the visual image. So 32 handsome-looking marks in the body of Shakyamuni Buddha was simply used as an expedient means by which he was able to enlighten other people, right? So that's why he said here, the discussion goes this way: the Tathagata may not be perceived by these 32 marks. Wherefore, because the Tathagata has explained that the 32 marks are not really such, they are called the 32 marks, right? And therefore, we can say that the 32 marks are, those handsome-looking, 32 marks seen to the eyes of sentient beings. That's the point. But I think the core idea is this: do not try to seek Buddha do not try to seek Buddha on the basis of his or her appearance, because Buddha has nothing to do with one's physical appearance. Okay, that is the implication. All right. So Buddha is beyond the image, beyond the appearance. Okay, that is the idea. Now, again, the underneath page number 42, there is a footnote, and this one is very informative. So let me read some of them. The diamond cuts into all other materials. The diamond cuts into all other materials. Here, the diamond is referring to the diamond thunderbolt that I have mentioned at the beginning of my lecture on the Diamond Sutra. So, diamond cuts into all other materials, but cannot be cut into by any of them. When clean and polished, it shines resplendent in the tiniest light, even when immersed in water. This is referring to the Buddha's wisdom, right? If Varachedika is taken in the sense of cuttled diamond, we might consider the title as the discourse on the penetration of the impenetrable. Now, the discourse on the penetration of the impenetrable. Now, this one is this is an interpretation of the title, the Diamond Sutra. So you might interpret the title of the Diamond Sutra this way: the discourse on the penetration of the impenetrable. Now, then, what is the impenetrable? It's referring to our fundamental ignorance. So our fundamental ignorance is indestructible. Nonetheless, by way of using the weapon and expedient means taught in the Diamond Sutra, we can penetrate eventually that fundamental ignorance, which is impenetrable. Okay, so that is the main idea of the Diamond Sutra. Okay, main idea of the Diamond Sutra. Okay. Okay, now let's move to section 14. This section is rather lengthy, so I think you can read it by yourself, but a couple of things that I would like to emphasize based upon the slide. There is the episode of the Raja of Kaling. This is a very interesting episode. I think it is related with the essence of the perfection of patience. The perfection of patience is one of the six parameters. Parameters is one of the the six parameters is maybe one of the most important means of self-enlightenment. So you can rely upon the six parameters and eventually, arrive at the realm of Buddhahood. Okay, so the six parameters, and every Buddha must depend upon the six parameters in order to become Buddha, right? So this is the most important means by which you can become Buddha, right? So the perfection of patience is one of them, right? And then now, parameters is a Sanskrit word, and then it can be interpreted in many different ways, and then we usually translate it into either method or perfection or cross. Cross in the sense that, using the means of the six parameters, we can cross the river and then eventually arrive at the realm of nirvana or enter the realm of nirvana or something like that, right? So that is the point. That is the point. Now, can you take a look at the page number 44? Page number 44. Okay, and then in the middle there is a very interesting episode. Okay, and here it says here it goes. Okay, so let me quickly read it. I think it's the second paragraph from the top. Subhuti, the Tathagata teaches likewise that the perfection of patience is not the perfection of patience. Such is merely a name. This is same sort of the rhetorical device that we have discussed. Why so? It is shown thus, Subhuti. Okay, and then now. From this on is the example of how you can practice the perfection of patience, okay, and the perfection of patience. Of course, you must know what are those six parameters, and they are in your, reading material. Okay, when you see the Buddhist terms, you can find those six parameters. Okay. And the perfection of patience is one of them. And what I want to do is I would like to explain to you the essence of the perfection of patience. What is it like? Okay, because it is different from the idea of patience that we understand. Okay, so here it says I'm getting back to the main body of the book. Okay, again. When the Raja of Kapulinga mutilated my body, I was at that time free from the idea of ego entity, of personality of being, and the separated individuality. Wherefore, because then when my limbs were cut away piece by piece, had I been bound by the distinctions aforesaid, feelings of anger and hatred would have been aroused within me. Subhuti, I remember that long ago, something during my last 500 mortal lives, I was an ascetic practicing patience. Even then was I free from those distinctions of separated selfhood, etc. The meaning of this episode is let me just try to summarize the meaning of this episode very briefly. The Raja of Kaflina, according to my understanding, was a king who was very vicious and evilish, and he actually picnicked with accompanied by 300 300 ladies, and then at that time there was a Buddha, and when those 300, I mean 300 ladies saw Buddha, they were all attracted by the appearance and benevolent appearance of Buddha, and so all those 300 ladies came to Buddha, and they were trying to talk with the Buddha. And when the king woke up, he saw the scene, and he became very angry because his beloved 300 ladies were all attracted by Buddha, and therefore what he did was he just wanted to kill Buddha, and not simply killing Buddha, but he was trying to mutilate the body of Buddha into hundreds of thousands of pieces, right? At that time, Buddha didn't have any idea of anger or madness. He was not angry, right? And what this episode tries to talk about is that the core idea, essence of the perfection of patience, is not that you endure your own anger. It's not that you repress your anger in your mind. It's not the perfection of patience, but the perfection of patience, the true practice of the perfection of patience, can be practiced only when you are free from ego entity. And then from that you may realize that this is the point, there is no I who is to get mad, right? And therefore the perfection of patience does not mean that you become patient under the circumstances that somebody harasses you, but in that there is no I who is to become angry, and therefore no need for you to become patient, but automatically you will be able to carry out the perfection of patience. That is the point. And then therefore the perfection of patience must be performed on the basis of your realization of the wisdom taught by the Diamond Sutra, which is no ego entity, not on the basis of your endurance or tolerance or how should I say, forgiveness. Not that, right? So there is no I who is to be patient. Then that is the perfection of patience. Okay, so that is the point. That's what this episode is trying to talk about. And therefore, even though his body was mutilated into thousands of hundreds of pieces, he was not angry at all. Why? Because there was no I who is to be mad, who is to get angry, right? Okay, next one is the one that I have mentioned already. Subhuti, the truth to which the Tathagata has attained is neither real nor non-real. This is what we call the middle way truth. And the middle way truth does not mean that it is in the middle point spatially, but it simply means no abiding, no attachment. That is the core idea of the middle way truth in Buddhism. Okay. Now the last one, the Tathagata will clearly perceive and recognize them by means of his Buddha knowledge. Okay, this one is a little bit a mystical idea, but it's on page number 46, and I think you can read it by yourself. But the main idea I want to explain it quickly before I finish. It means that the Tathagata is able to perceive and recognize all sentient beings by means of his Buddha knowledge. In other words, he can see, every tiny things in the mind of sentient beings. How can he know all of them? How? That is because, okay, That is because the sentient beings are not someone who are separate from Buddha, but all sentient beings are those who are in the mind of Buddha. And from this, we can see the idea of inseparability between sentient beings and the Buddha. And therefore, when sentient beings suffer, Buddha suffers. Inseparability. And then that's why Buddha must save every individual sentient being in order for Buddha to remain in the realm of nirvana with no anxiety. But can it be possible? Can it ever be realized? I don't know. But in my opinion, it will never be realized completely. And therefore, the process of salvation by Buddha will become an endless task. And therefore, this universe will remain continuously. Why? The end of the universe is when Buddha enlightens every individual sentient being in this cosmos or in this universe. But that's only our speculative idea. What I'm saying is that the completion of enlightenment of all sentient beings in this universe. And therefore, it will remain as a ceaseless and endless task, right? And therefore, the universe will continuously exist. Okay, so that's Buddhism.